This is Parker Hesse.
This is Sam Branks.
You have the pleasure of listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys podcast, featuring your hosts, Bo Freeborn.
You know, guys, even though we get 2 conference losses, we're still going to end up 9-3. We're going to win the West, for sure.
Dylan Pond.
Here's the thing, fellas. I'm going with it. 12-0, baby. We're going to do it. Let's fucking go. Woo!
And Rob Wall.
I mean, that would be shocking. But we can do it. I mean, I think we can.
So crack a tall boy and go Hawks.
All right. Welcome into another episode of Hawkeyes and Tallboys. My name is Rob.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Bo.
And tonight we have with us Mike Rowe from Colorado to talk some Colorado State. So if you guys don't mind, cheers, guys.
Cheers. Dude, for all those listeners at home, look at Rob Wall. He's got a Budweiser tonight. Little diesel action, baby.
I'm drinking a Bud Diesel.
Let's go.
But I did notice that
of the Bud Heavy, you know, that's a solid drink.
Hell yeah.
Well,
that's what Nebraska fans drink. So,
is that
what's
right?
going on with that?
Oh, literally, it's the stripe cans from the 4th of July Stars and Stripes edition. But Mike, I noticed you got a little Coors Pure.
Yeah, Coors Pure. This is the Coors version of Mick Ultra. You know, I have to watch this girlish figure of mine. This body's a temple, so I got to make sure that I take care of it. So yeah, it's tastes a little bit like Banquet. Decent drink. So
yeah, I've had that before, and it's awesome, especially when you have like 6 or 7, and then you have a tough time pronouncing. Hey, this is a Coors Pure. I always am like, excuse me, guys, I'll take another Coors Pures. And then like it just kind of goes from there, but it's awesome. I mean, it's apparently supposed to be like 100% organic and like 100 calories or something like that.
Oh, but, yeah, then that's why I drink it. Again, my body's a temple, so I always gotta, only put the finest in it.
It's perfect, man. It's easy drinking. I honestly really like it. I enjoy a Coors Pure for sure.
Yeah, no, it is an all-day drinker, that's for sure.
Yeah, you could definitely have those all day. So definitely want to just welcome you to the podcast, Mike. We have had this season so far. We've tried to get someone from the opposing team to jump on the podcast and just talk a little bit about, their team and against, we kind of go through all the different things that, we can look at as far as the upcoming game. But first, we just like to ask you some questions. So obviously are you originally from Colorado or?
Yeah, born and raised, my parents, both from here. And so, yeah, I've been in the state since I was a wee lad.
Yeah. Nice. And I had a question for you too here, Mike. Just, like Rob was saying, obviously we've been trying to get, fans or, folks like in your position from all sorts of different schools to come on our podcast this year. So thank you again for coming on. We really appreciate it. But one thing, absolutely. And one thing I noticed too, and, this is probably just a typical fan from the Midwest, not necessarily knowing, but when I saw we were playing Colorado State, I'm like, that's going to be my tough one. I'm not going to be able to find anybody that's a Colorado State fan. I knew the year wasn't going the best for you guys. And then I start looking around and, I think I posted that just once on that Colorado State football page that I was looking for someone and saw that you ran the Rams Nation page and obviously DM'd you, but there's a lot of people liking it and you guys have quite the following, don't you?
It definitely comes and goes. We have a pretty big core group. We actually sold out our allotment for Saturday. And so there's going to be a lot of Ram fans and, and you'll kind of see it, what we did. And we played in Tuscaloosa twice over the last decade. We went to Gainesville, Fayetteville, Minneapolis, Boston, And in all those places, we've always had a great showing. Now it's kind of what our fans do. We'll have a great showing for that name game on the road, and then after that, it's like pulling teeth to try to get people there. Very fair weather group of fans. Like I said, we got a great core group, but I don't know. I'd say it's kind of like what Indiana is in the Big Ten, or even Minnesota. Like I've been there 3 times, and I mean 2 of those games were for Wisconsin, Minnesota, and there were way more Gopher fans than there were, way more Badger fans than Gopher fans. So we're kind of like that on a little bit of a smaller scale, obviously being in the Mountain West and in the group of 5, but we know how to party, we know how to have fun, and we're looking forward on Saturday just for those reasons.
Absolutely.
Before you jumped on too, you're saying too that you're going to travel really well. I mean, is it mostly the family of the players, or like alumni, or who's all traveling with the team to get out to Iowa City and all these big places you're playing?
So it'll be a lot of player parents, but just a lot of alumni. I went to school during the 90s when CSU was a top 25 team, and so a lot of people my age, a little older, a little younger, we love traveling for games like this. And then there's some kids that in their 20s that just still love to party. So they're going to make these big name games, and so it's always a fun time. Every time we go on these big trips, the day before the game, I always set something up for our fans to do before the official alumni event. And so this year we're gonna I already talked to Joe's place, so we'll be going there Friday afternoon, and then after that the official alumni events at Big Grove. So
nice.
looking forward to Iowa City, looking forward to have some fun.
Those are 2 great places to go. I'll tell you
Absolutely.
what, Mike. Big Grove is a great place to go to have some beers and hang out. They brew their own beer, obviously there, which is really great. And then like when I'm downtown, I'm always usually stopping at Joe's at some point. They got like an outdoor area. They got like a rooftop now. They have like a bunch of different bars in the main level. Like it's a place to be. I mean, I get stuck playing darts, playing pool, going out, ordering food. Like it's a good place to go. I spent actually almost all afternoon there last Saturday. So
nice. That's great. I love hearing that. I was hoping to find a brewery other than Big Grove nearby, but it doesn't seem there's as many in Iowa City as there are in Fort Collins, where, man, at one point we had about 50.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I think we're down to about 30 now. But yeah, we have a lot throughout the entire state of Colorado. We
Gotcha.
like our beer here and our weed.
Yeah. Yep.
right.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just realized that I forgot to introduce you in the way that you had asked me to before we started, but Mike is the co-host of Rams Nation Radio, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
Perfect.
That is correct.
And obviously, as Dylan mentioned, he co-runs the ramsnation.com website for all the Colorado State message board and all the inside information. So really happy to have you, like we said. But before we get into this Colorado State game on Saturday, we do need to rewind it and look at what the Hawkeyes did last week against the flash fast offense of the Kent State Golden Flashes. And Bo, if you want to take us back, what was your thoughts on the game? It ended up being a 30-7 win for the Hawkeyes. If you want to take us back.
You bet. It was an absolutely warm one, guys. I think we were talking before this. It was 95 degrees. I was sitting on the east or the visitor side, and we baked in the sun, man. It was hot. But, hey, the Hawks came out running and gunning, had 9 points early before Kent State had a very impressive drive. But Iowa's defense, like Dylan always says, that boa constrictor defense, they came in clutch towards the end of the game, and Iowa's offense did what they needed to do to hold off Kent State. So, kudos to everyone playing there. The Hawks look good. For all you naysayers that say that this is a really boring game, it is what it is. Hawks got the win. It's the most important stat. Petras looked all right. And, hey, I'm happy with the win and going on to Colorado State. But, Dill, break it down for me. Tell me what you got to say.
Oh, absolutely. I love what you said there about Petras, too. It seems like a lot of his haters have come out the woodwork. In a game that was completely balanced, where I think Iowa had maybe one more rushing play than they did passing. You look at Spencer Petras going, 25 for 36, by far just statistically there, percentage-wise, his best game of the year, 209 yards and a touchdown as well. Yeah, you'd like to see that yards per completion or that yards per attempt go up a little bit, but nonetheless, the dude's getting the job done. And he's winning ball games, and he's using the playmakers he has around him, and just that game awareness that he has, where it's like, okay, not saying this is just Kent State by any means, but I mean, you think about it, where it's not just Kent State, because that flash offense can score in a hurry. So he's being smart with the football, not turning the ball over. Still throw that touchdown pass to Sam Laporta. Should have had one with Charlie Jones as well, but got stopped at the 1 yard line. And then the play. Oh, one other thing I forgot about Spencer Petras passing was 9 different receivers caught passes. So I wouldn't expect to see that necessarily all year long, but it shows you, the firepower that we do have on the offensive side of the ball. And then Tyler Goodson was Tyler Goodson. That's the 4-star running back that, we expected to see. And, he's came out this year with just a terror, with the exception of that Iowa State game. 22 carries, 153 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. And, that's with Ivory Kelly Martin and Gavin Williams getting in the game quite a bit as well. So love to see it. Like you said, Bo, I was going to touch on it too. It's just that classic boa constrictor game where end of the first quarter, it's a little closer than you like it to be, but you could just see it in the body language where, the Kent State guys had hands on hips and whatnot. And that's when you knew you had them, where it was like, okay, yeah, the points are going to start rolling. And yeah, we would have liked to see him score a few more points. And obviously those of you that listened to us and took the over or took the under, but took Iowa to cover, if you got it early in the week, you're happy with us. If you got it after we told you to get it on Wednesday, you're pissed off, because obviously they didn't get that. They hit the 22.5, but they didn't hit the 23.5. So understandably so, you can come at us for that. That's fine. We're not paying you back. And yeah,
and Dill too, on top of that, we got to remember too, and fans got to remember that Kent State was picked to win the MAC this year. I think both of our hosts last week said, watch out for this offense, because they can score really well. And then the first 2 weeks they had 8 interceptions too. So Dylan and I talked a little bit after the game. They're not going to tell Petras to force it down the field if they don't have to. Do the dink and dunk, check downs all day long. If it's going to get 4 or 5 yards, that's okay. Keep the clock rolling, keep the ball out of their offensive hands, because they can score at any time. And then again, the defense is coming up again with points. That safety right there in that first possession for Kent State, obviously huge, but again, showing the defense is really, really putting this team on their back, and is really performing exceptionally well so far to start the season.
Oh, absolutely. And I think just off that, Bo, it was very, very evident that the game plan for Spencer Petras was to be nothing but conservative. Because I heard a lot of fans around me where we were sitting in 133 whining that, he just keeps hitting the check down. He keeps doing this. He keeps doing that. Well, yeah, that's his first read. So what that tells me is that was clearly the game plan all week in practice. Like, yeah, hit the check downs, let them do their thing. And, we're going to win this game on the back of Tyler Goodson. So, and with some timely passing from Spencer Petras as well.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like that's exactly what we did. And some interesting things to note about this game, guys. Time of possession wise, we were ahead 36 minutes to 23 minutes. The only turnover in this game was actually a fumble lost by us from Ivory Kelly Martin, who actually had 2 fumbles.
He just had 1 fumble, but there was that turnover by Kent State in the end zone that was recovered by Riley Moss, and it stopped them from scoring in the red zone.
But you are correct though, Rob. There was 2. Ivory Kelly Martin did fumble the ball twice, but Sam Laporta jumped on it one time, so it didn't count as a turnover.
Yeah, okay. Either way, so that was some interesting things to note. Obviously, I don't think I'm not sure how they're gonna go forward with Ivory Kelly Martin with those fumbles that he had this last game, but it'd be interesting to see how he fits into the offense, or maybe it's Gavin Williams' time from here on out as the second back in our backfield.
I think it's a little early to pull the plug on Ivory Kelly Martin just yet. Obviously, redshirt senior, and does a lot of for this team outside of the running back position and is a leader in that room. They're not going to pull the plug on him yet, but he's definitely on a short leash on his way to the classic Ferentz doghouse. So
perfect. All right. Well, we are going to jump right into this Colorado State preview. And so to that, I'm just going to toss over to Dylan. Why don't you walk us through, and then maybe we can talk to Mike here and see if Mike's got some information for us about the Colorado State Rams. And one thing I did talk about before we even got on is actually I do randomly own some Colorado State merchandise. I have a Colorado State t-shirt. My dad traveled there to Fort Collins for work and picked up some random basketball practice jersey that has Colorado State Rams on it. So
That's awesome.
I randomly have some merchandise from Colorado State. So it's kind of interesting.
The team's going to be legit this year for CSU. That's one of the things that we are excited about in Fort Collins, and that's our basketball team. But it's funny. A friend of mine, big Iowa fans, and his mom went to UNI. She had a CSU wine wheel, magnet on her refrigerator. He has no idea where she got that, but yeah, he sent a picture of it a couple Christmases ago and was like, "Yeah, my mom has this. I don't know where it came from, so must be something that happens in Iowa. That, CSU gear just pops up."
Dude,
right.
CSU is on that merchandising game.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're one of those logo schools, kind of like Notre Dame, Bama, EU.
Right. Hell yeah. But yeah, Mike, I'll jump into our quick little Colorado State preview. Jump in wherever you see fit, man. So
All
I
right.
see so far in 2021, Colorado State's records 1-2, got picked up a pretty big W versus Toledo last week, 22-6, and then opened the season with the loss to South Dakota State, 23-42, and lost a close one to Vanderbilt as well, 21-24. And just going through a little bit of some of the film from those first three games, the first player that stands out to me, and I want to hear your thoughts on him, Mike, because he seems like a surefire, NFL tight end, is Trey McBride. Tell me a little bit about this guy. He doesn't have the touchdown stats, but he already has 30 receptions for 339 yards and a touchdown in 3 games. This guy's unreal.
Yeah, he is arguably the best tight end that we've seen, and we had a pretty good stretch where we were getting guys in the NFL as far as the tight end position. And he has great hands. He has good. His route running is amazing, especially for a big guy like he is, and deceptive speed. I guess you could say they say that to every white receiver, in college football. But for as big as he is, when he catches the ball, he's got good hips. He's just quick. He's definitely a matchup problem. You can't put a DB on him because he's just way too big for him, and you really can't put a linebacker on him because he's too fast for them. So he presents a matchup problem to most teams that he plays every time he's out there, and he's done it since his freshman year. We had the pleasure to interview him last year. He had put his name in the transfer portal. The Mountain West, like the Big Ten, had initially announced that they would not play football in the fall of 2020, and so he put his name in the transfer portal and was looking to leave, and he had some pretty big schools in the SEC and the ACC contacting him, and he really decided that he wanted to be a Colorado State Ram. He's from about an hour east of Fort Collins, hour and a half east of Fort Collins. He's a Colorado boy. His older brother's on the team, and he just bleeds green and gold. And so that's why he came back. And, we had a chance to sit down with him, and we were his first interview that he gave after announcing that he was going to return. And he's a humble kid. Tom McShay has him rated as his top tight end, has him rated going into the first round next year. in the NFL draft, which is, pretty big for a tight end, let alone a tight end from the Mountain West.
Well, he's 6'4", 260 with deceptive speed, and he's got to have great hands. Looks like against the win, he had your win against last week. I can't remember exactly.
Toledo.
Yeah, Toledo. Sorry,
the Rockets.
Toledo. 9 receptions for 109 yards and a touchdown. That's amazing.
Well, that's it. I mean, he's averaging 10 catches a game and over 100 yards, and that's kind of unheard of for a tight end to do it week in and week out. I know that having watched Iowa play, I mean, you're known for your tight ends. I mean, we got Noah Fant here in Denver for the Broncos, so get to watch him, and he's like McBride, like he really is that good. Like, I mean, he is solid. He's the best player that we have on the field. Let me take that back. Our punter is the best player that we have.
That's what I'm talking about.
Trey is definitely second.
Dude, I was gonna say that's another thing I noticed is, good God, he's got a leg on him, and we've been talking about it, with Iowa all year long, because we got our Australian punter and Torrey Taylor, and the dude kicks the lights out, without a doubt, one of the best players on our team as well. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about your punter. Punter is winning, man. It's key.
Ryan Stonehouse. Yeah, this kid, man, he was a finalist for the Ray Guy Award twice. I think as a freshman and a sophomore, and he wasn't his junior year for whatever reason, even though he had better numbers. But I mean, the kid's lights out. I mean, 2 weeks ago against Vandy, he received it at about the 1 yard line, and he punted it almost to the end zone. I mean, on a bounce a little bit, but I mean, he put it probably 70 yards in the air. I mean, he just smoked it. And, we had a former punter and a current betting analyst for CBS Sports on our podcast a few weeks ago, and he said that Stonehouse is an NFL player, that he will make it in the NFL, and he changes the field. Sometimes one of the bad things is he completely out kicks the coverage, and so it does give our opponents an opportunity, for that return game. But I mean, it's always a positive, and that was big last week against Toledo. Is he did change the field position, and it really did help out our defense and allow them to kind of get after Toledo and pin them back, and we started winning that field position battle because, I mean, shit, we scored way too many field goals instead of touchdowns last week.
No,
Speaking of those two impact players, I mean, your tight end and your punter are obviously huge, but talk a little bit about your quarterback, Todd Santero, and then obviously your running back, David Bailey. Those are kind of some impact players that we looked at from the offense. But, in terms of offense and defense, speak to them a little bit, and maybe even tell us a little about who you think maybe who we should look for on the defensive side of the ball.
So Toddy's our quarterback. He struggles with the forward pass. He's a game manager, and the first game he threw for over 300 yards, probably against the best defense that we faced. But it was one of those where they packed the box, and Coach Adazio, our head coach, talked about it in the press conference the following week, how South Dakota State just played a base defense. I mean, they were begging him to beat him, and he missed a couple of wide open seams that would have changed the game completely on our first two possessions, where we should have had 14 points, where he hit our best receiver, Dante Wright, who's banged up, but he was listed as questionable, for this week, where we had a chance to be up two touchdowns early. We had 2 punts, and he struggles with that. But he does well with the read option. and he has deceptive speed where he can, if he gets that right gap, he can break it off 10, 15, 20 yards pretty easily. David Bailey transferred from Boston College, played with Adazio there. Was actually a really good ACC running back, and decided to come and try it out in the Mountain West. Struggled that first week, but since then he's been ripping off yards, 6, 7, 8 yards a carry. And he runs hard. And it's something that we haven't had, for a while, with our previous coaching staff and last year's like mini season that we had. So if he does that again this week, and I know what Iowa's strength is defensively, but if he can get 3, 4, 5 yards a carry, hopefully we can keep that field position, battle going with our punter. So, but again, he's good. He like I said, he's a hard runner, and hopefully he keeps us in the game.
Interesting stats about those impact players for Colorado State. David Bailey averaged, like I said, he did struggle in that San Diego State game, but it looks like he had 5.3 yards a carry against Vanderbilt, and then 4.4 again against Toledo in that win. He ran for 132 yards. So yeah, he definitely looks like an impact player. And I want to point this out because we love talking about punters, but not to dwell on it too much. But Stonehouse, his career long was against Vanderbilt, 81 yards.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me with that punt?
Yeah. That was,
wow.
Yeah, that's the one. Like I said, he fielded, he received it inside like the 5-yard line and put it almost to the end zone, man. He crushed it. He crushed it. And I'll be honest, I had 1 or 2 beverages heading into that game. And like when it happened, like part of me was like, how effing drunk am I? Like, am I so drunk that I'm not? I was like, did he really do that? I'm like, because it's been known to happen in Fort Collins and anywhere else we go, that I get a bit drunk.
Sure, no problem.
I enjoy my tall boys too.
We're no stranger to that.
That's right.
So that's so that's going to be interesting to see how somebody like that who has played in the ACC, has played now in the Mountain West, how he stacks up against Iowa's defense, and that's what's always tough, because obviously I feel like the Big Ten kind of beats up on each other. And where like our defense will play great against great teams and then maybe fail to show up against other teams. And so it's kind of a toss up. Now I hate to say that about this year's defense, because so far the only thing that they have proven is that they like to, shut people down. And so I'd be interested to see how, a guy like David Bailey is able to kind of, cut around and get around the end and see how he stacks up against those guys.
Well, I was getting.
Go ahead, Bo.
Oh, I was going to say, Mike. So just so you know, man, so far the Iowa defense is 3 for 3 in getting starting QBs benched. So, do you see that happening this weekend, or what are your thoughts?
Man, I hope not, because our backup is lost for the season on a lower body injury, whatever that is. I didn't know that we were a hockey team, but yeah, we lost him, which many people thought was going to be our starting quarterback by this game, to be honest. Matt Valence transferred from Boston College. Most people thought that he was gonna take over after the first few games, and we lost him. And so we had one freshman just quit, decided he didn't want to play football, an early enrollee actually from New Mexico, and then our big in-state college recruit. Not sure what happened with him. He's no longer in the program and is now at like the Last Chance U community college. So we are down to another freshman, one of our 3, who got a little bit of time in that first game against South Dakota State, and actually looked all right. I mean, he looked like he could throw up more than 15 yards. So that was a bonus, but obviously a freshman coming into Kinnick Field's probably not the best environment for him to start his career.
And that's is that Evan Olays?
Yes. Elias, yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, yeah, that's him. Like, he led us to a touchdown in that first game, but yeah, hopefully our running game and our punter keeps us in that game so that we don't have to see him.
Well, some people look at this and it could be a trap game for Iowa, but you're kind of making it sound more and more like, hey, man, as long as Iowa shows up, this may be a certified win or a guaranteed win.
Well, we look at our first two games. Honestly, I thought last week's game would have been our toughest of our first three games. And that's the game that we won. And we actually, dominated them in the second half. And, you look at Vandy and we dominated them basically the whole game, but we had stupid penalties in the red zone. They missed field goals. We should have been up on them 21-0. Instead, it was 14-14, going into halftime or in the third quarter. And then, they won on a last second field goal. And that first game, I mean, we were just not outmatched. I saw them when everyone was on the field. I'm like, shit. I'm like, this is good. I'm like, we're bigger than a team. And then, I mean, you could tell they played an entire spring. They had no rust. We came in, we made dumb mistakes, missed assignments, and that happened. I mean, I think Iowa lost to North Dakota State about a decade ago, right?
Oh yeah.
5 years.
So
5 years. Yeah.
5 years ago.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. My apologies on that. I was trying to
That's okay.
make it sound a little bit better.
No, those
Yeah,
teams
bringing
up
up
there
bad-
are trap
Bringing up bad
games.
memories. Oh yeah.
South Dakota State and North Dakota State, there are teams that get after it out there, and they got
Yes.
huge followings. And I don't know, maybe it's just because nothing's going on in the Dakotas.
Yeah, for sure.
They travel. We were infiltrated in Iowa City with North Dakota State fans last time they played here,
Yeah,
and I
we
believe
were
that's when they
too.
had Carson Wentz. Is that might not be true?
Oh, actually, that sounds right. I'm pretty sure
No.
Carson Wentz was the quarterback of that team, wasn't he?
Easton Stick, who's actually with the
Okay,
I
that's
think
right.
it's the Colts. Yeah, I think he was.
Oh,
He was.
so he was after Carson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Right.
Interesting. Another alumni that used to be for Colorado State, Michael Gallup, plays for the Cowboys.
Yes, he does. Great kid. Great receiver. He kind of just sucks. He got caught in that shuffle with their other two starting receivers, and then he got banged up that first game. But I mean, he's got talent. He's got talent, and it's been fun to watch him. We've had a pretty good run with receivers going into the NFL. And Dante Wright, again, he's banged up, but I see him playing in the league as well in a couple of years, if we get a quarterback that can throw to him.
Gotcha. And is he going to be your number one receiver right now on this year's team?
Yes, by far.
Gotcha.
I mean, he has
Gotcha.
been. He was last year as well, but he got banged up in that Vandy game, and so he missed last week. And like I said, he's questionable for this week.
Well, Mike, and you talk about you guys needing a quarterback, and I'm just going to throw a name out here because I didn't realize this until I posted, sent that reply to that Colorado State football Twitter page. But one of the likes I saw in there was Mike Padilla, and then it got me thinking, well, yeah, okay, Iowa's backup quarterback Alex Padilla. I know he was Mr. Colorado football or whatever when he was there.
Yep.
Before coming to Iowa, and kind of stuck in a log jam now where I could see it if he doesn't win that backup job going into the spring. You could potentially have a transfer option there as well, so might be a little recruiting weekend for you guys as well.
So his dad is actually a CSU alum.
Okay.
Was the starting center for 1990 Freedom Bowl champion team. A bowl game that Iowa fans knew well back in the 80s and the 90s.
Oh yeah.
That and the Holiday Bowl, and those were bowls that CSU went to a ton back in the 90s. But yeah, his dad was the starting center for that game, and then started most of his games while he was at CSU in the early 90s. So yeah, Alex went to Cherry Creek High School, not too far from where I live. Great player. And it was one of those, obviously, you're going to go to a Big Ten school, or you're going to go to the Mountain West. And, we don't win a lot of those recruiting battles, but, that's one of the good things about kind of this new transfer portal for a smaller school like CSU, or I shouldn't say a smaller school, a smaller program, in the group of 5 compared to, a Big Ten school, is there's a chance to get very good quickly, if you get the right transfers. And you're right. I mean, could be something that down the road, especially just the way the kids are today, our backup punter left, put his name in the portal today, which I don't know why. It's not like he was going to, guess he thought he should have been punting before Stonehouse, but yeah, kids just kind of, that's the way today, they don't see that immediate, result, let's bounce somewhere else.
And sometimes it works out too, because there's a guy from the University of Iowa. His name's Dominic Daphne. He came out of Valley High School in Des Moines, was on Iowa's roster for 2-3 years, knew he wasn't going to play, bounced to Indiana State, and now he's the backup tight end for the Packers. And he was catching touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers last year and so far this year. So, I mean, sometimes it works out for those kids, and like you said, it's great for those smaller programs, that kind of get those, I hate to say rejects, but some of those guys that just don't see a whole lot of playing time, or don't see a whole lot of playing time in their future.
Oh yeah, one of the best quarterbacks in CSU history is Bradley Van Pelt, who started off at Michigan State, and they wanted to move him to linebacker or safety, and so he wanted to play quarterback. He ended up transferring to CSU, and started for 3 years from his sophomore year on, 3 bowl games, a Mountain West title, and then he played 5 years in the league with the Broncos and the Texans. So you're right. Sometimes the grass really is greener on the other side, and you just need that fresh start. So, but hopefully Alex, hopefully works out for you. And
right. And that's what we're hoping for too.
Exactly.
I saw some glimpses of him in the spring game where he looked, just absolutely stellar. And then there were some glimpses what kind of made you say, what the fuck? And
yeah.
I mean, that's any young quarterback. So
exactly,
that's fine. I think he's showing flashes, and they made it pretty clear that he was the number 2 behind Spencer Petras, which was surprising to a lot of Iowa fans because, number 3 on that list is Deuce Hogan, who was a highly coveted recruit out of Texas. So, I mean, that just goes to show you the kind of work that Alex has put it in the respect he's got from the Iowa coaches. So, but all this transfer portal talk, I don't mean to totally change the subject because it's kind of along the same lines, but we're hearing so much about conference realignment right now. I guess, is there any rumors going on with Colorado State that you know of, or, are they thinking about leaving for greener pastures, or is anybody thinking about coming into the Mountain West that you know of? I guess just tell me what you've heard there.
About a month ago, before when Oklahoma and Texas first announced, had heard a few things from some pretty reliable sources that if the Big 12 went to 6 teams, that CSU had a good shot of being one of those 6. Obviously, they went with 4, and they did the thing that they had to. The Big 12 did. I thought it was a dumb move going with Cincinnati and UCF, because you can look at what happened with the Big East when they got poached with some of their top teams. When Boston College and Miami went to the ACC and West Virginia went to the Big 12. They lost everything, and they tried to go big. They tried to bring in San Diego State and Boise State from the Mountain West, and they tried to bring in TCU from the Mountain West as well. And it just got too big, and the whole conference exploded, and then they turned into AAC, and I thought that the Big 12 was short-sighted, but they did what they had to do right now. They have to look good. And to be honest, they are just the Big Ten deciding that they need to go to 16 teams and bringing in an Iowa State or a Kansas from completely imploding. And you know, and there was a rumor that came out that the Pac-12 was very close to bringing in Houston and TCU to make it the Pac-14. So the Big 12 did what they had to do. They took the top 4 teams, the teams that are seeing the most. But I know that that's not probably going to be the final thing. Everything's moving so fast with all the autonomous groups that I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. But right now, the biggest rumor is CSU and Air Force and possibly Boise State and San Diego State joining the AAC, along with maybe a North Texas and a UAB, Alabama Birmingham, to join that league. Now, if that happens, it is a bump in pay for the Mountain West schools. The AAC's contract with ESPN, as it is said now, is about double, which isn't much, 6,000 to 3 or 8,000 to 4, something like that. But it is a pay. But the biggest thing is then the home schools have to provide the production costs for it, since most of the AAC games are on ESPN Plus. But that's the thing that's going on right now. How much of it all is true? I mean, who knows? Again, I mean, who would have thought that Rutgers and Maryland were all of a sudden going to be in the Big Ten? And I mean, seriously, who would have thought that Texas would have, you know, kind of caved and went to the SEC, where they're not going to be anywhere near the top dog in a conference ever? No, I seriously thought them going either to the Pac-10 or Pac-12 or even to the Big Ten would have happened before them going to the SEC, because now they're going to have to split with Texas A&M. You know, and that was one of the big things why Texas A&M left. So who knows? My thing is, we just got to win the fucking Mountain West. You know,
right?
That's what we need to focus on, and you know, and that's what we used to. That's what we did in the '90s. God, I feel so old saying that. That's what we did in the early 2000s. You know, it was winning Mountain West games, and that's what we got to get back to doing.
Absolutely. Bill Clinton getting BJs in the Oval Office, and Colorado State winning Mountain West titles. So let's go.
Exactly.
But what a transition that is to get into some of Dylan's keys to the victory. So, and then Mike, just so you can hear this too, I always hold myself accountable from the week prior. So going into the Kent State week, my keys to the victory on offense: establishing the running game. That happened. 3 tutties from Tyler Goodson. Awesome to see. If you guys remember, that was my hot take before Rob stole it, because I let him go before me. So obviously I don't hold grudges, so that's good. Defensively, I said make Dustin Crum, quarterback, beat you with his arm, because, you know, we knew he was a runner. We knew they had a good running back. And I said they tried to out Iowa. And obviously they failed. You know, our defense was up to the task. So I'd say I was right there as well. But here I was wrong. I said special teams would get 1 return TD, and that did not happen. You know, that Kent State punter wasn't great, but he just refused to kick to Charlie Jones. And obviously that was a smart idea. So not just, you know, us Hawkeye fans know about Charlie Jones anymore. So we got to realize that's happening, and winning the field position battle, you know, punting. We've talked about it. We talked about it with you, Mike. You know, punting is a crucial part of this Iowa offense, solely because, you know, our idea of winning the game is winning the time of possession. You know, you can go back and look at the last 20 years of Kirk Ferentz football. If we win the time of possession, there's a very good chance that I was winning that game. So absolutely imperative. So I did pretty good. Go figure. Dylan's keys to victory: Colorado State offense. What I'm saying is stay balanced. And when I mean stay balanced, I like to see a good mixture of running and passing the ball, not just to get Spencer Petras going as well, but obviously we jump right into Big Ten play next week too. Not looking past Colorado State by any means, but we want to get that arm for Spencer Petras going a little bit and get him a little more confidence under his belt as well. So I'd say stay balanced, but continue improving that passing attack. Defensively, just keep being ball hawks. We got multiple turnovers in every game, with the exception of that Kent State game, just got the one fumble. But if we can keep doing that, keep creating turnovers and keeping everything in front of you, Iowa plays a pretty, with the exception of that 4-2-5 where they throw in that cash position, it's a pretty vanilla offense. And, with that tight end, Trey McBride, I think we're going to see a lot more 4-3 this week. So expect to see a lot of Justin Jacobs, number 5 on the field in that outside linebacker spot on him. So I think if they can keep being ball hawks and Justin Jacobs can have himself a day keeping Trey McBride in check, we're going to be in a good spot. And then for special teams, this one might surprise you, Mike, but I said don't get into a field goal kicking battle because Caden Camper, despite his first couple games, that dude's good. He went, 5 for 5 last week?
Yeah, he did go 5 for 5 last week. So I have to give it up to him for that. He definitely improved his career percentage in last week's win.
Right. So, but that's my keys to victory. Guys, feel free to comment. Otherwise, Mike, I'd say just jump into your keys to victory for, what's it going to take for Colorado State to come into Iowa City Saturday and get themselves a win?
I was fortunate enough to be in Boston when we knocked off BC in 2014, and that was a week after they had beat number 6 USC, Southern Cal. And we did that by controlling the time of possession. We did that by winning the field position battle and by winning the turnover battle. For us to have any chance, we have to take care of the ball. That's any, like I said, I watch a lot of Iowa games. I watch a lot of Big Ten. I'm also, I like Wisconsin, like the Badgers.
Okay. That's okay.
And so I do watch a lot of Big Ten football. And, that's when Iowa destroys teams, when they force turnovers. If we can hold on to the ball and win the turnover battle and win that field position battle and hope that we don't give up the big play. We know what Iowa's strength is running the ball, keeping control of the clock. And if we could get some 3 and outs and force some turnovers, who knows what can happen.
There you go. Okay. All right. What, you guys got any comments there, or should we jump right into hot takes?
Well, I want to let's look at the betting lines for the degenerates out there, including me. So this, according to DraftKings, we are looking at Iowa, Colorado State, a 2:30 game on Saturday. The over/under is at 45, which is considerably lower than last week's, and we hit the under. And Iowa's minus 23 favorites for as far as the spread goes. Money line there, minus 1750, it looks like. So pretty big favorites according to the guys at DraftKings. But it's interesting where they have the over/under, which is fairly low. So maybe they looked at last week's game and they thought, well, I don't think either of these teams are going to be scoring a lot of points, so maybe they're going to put it at 45. But I don't know where to throw that. I might look at the over on this one. And I said over last week, and both our Kent State correspondents were saying hammer the under, and they both ended up being right. And so it's interesting to see where this one is. What do you think about the lines there, Mike?
Well, I mean, if you look at all of Iowa's games, 34-6, 27-17, 30-7, they've all been under that 45 mark. Same thing. Again, Iowa blows out teams when they force a lot of turnovers, but they chew up a lot of clock. So they're not a team that is unless they're getting the turnovers or a pick six, a fumble return, they're not throwing up a ton of points. CSU's not going to, score a ton of points. I mean, we haven't so far all season long. I don't see why this would change. We're all around that 20, 21, 22, 24-point mark for all three of our games this season. So I don't see CSU scoring a lot of points. So I definitely would go the under on this. I mean, that's nothing that CSU is going to do something great on this. They just, the way Iowa plays is they're not going to throw up. I don't think they'll throw up like a 42, a 45-point game. And if they do, they're probably going to pitch a shutout because we've turned the ball over. So you're still going to be at that under mark.
Sure. I agree. And because that's sort of leading me down into wanting to predict this game as far as the scores go. But before we do that, we need to get to some hot takes. And so I can go ahead and start us off with a hot take because last time I didn't, and I was at, well, hold on, wait.
Last time you did.
I did, and I stole Dylan. So I can't do that again. So Dylan, maybe why don't you start us off with a little hot take section?
I'll take this one first. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's a reason when I sent you guys the outline today for you to look everything over, I did not include my hot take because I don't trust either one of you.
Don't trust me.
No, absolutely not. So here's what we're gonna do, guys. Here's my hot take. You're gonna see a balanced yet breakout game from Spencer Petras. It's not gonna be one of those. You're not gonna feel like, oh man, like while watching it, like, oh God, this guy's a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He's the quarterback of the future. But it's going to be a balanced, subtle, 3-touchdown, 300 yards passing game. So there's my hot take. What do you guys got?
That is a hot take. Bo, I know you got one.
Yeah, I got one. So it's a little bit similar to that, Dill, but I'm going to go ahead and say that we are not going to see Tory Taylor at all this week. I think that Iowa's offense is going to go ballistic on this defense. Sorry, Mike. I like Colorado State. I respect their program, love their colors, love their mascot. Not this weekend, buddy. I don't think that their defense holds on to Iowa very well, and I don't think that Iowa's offense is going to stop scoring. I think they're going to run the clock, like you said. They're going to chew up a lot of time. They're going to have a lot of fun and a big field day with them. And Tory Taylor, get rested up for Big Ten play, baby. We're not seeing you till next week.
Oh, Rob, what do you got, man?
Okay, hot take for me. I am gonna say that. Well, mine has to do with turnovers. So I don't think that Iowa turns the ball over this week because we had an issue with that last week. So I think we're gonna come out with a clean game this week. I think that the defense is gonna force 2 turnovers. And I believe that we are going to shut out Colorado State. So that was a three little pronged hot take for me. You can call it a fork if you want. Basically, what I'm looking at is I think that this week's defense, this year's defense really, but when it comes to this week, like I've seen a lot out of them. I said earlier in the podcast, like, yeah, there's some times where we've seen them not play at their best. And when you look at the guys that are on this defense, they played on this team 2 years ago. They played on this team last year. They've seen the ups and downs and some elite players come and go. But I think the core that is there right now is a really solid group of guys that have sort of come up together. And I feel like I'm kind of done doubting them. I'm just ready for them to get out there and prove how good they really are. And it's interesting that they had in their college careers, right? So I'm looking at like Riley Moss, Matt Hankins, those guys. Those are both of our corners. We had such a weird year last year with the pandemic, as far as like, and if you look at it in terms of like their career as Iowa Hawkeyes, such a subtle, like we never played a bowl game because it got canceled. We never played our big game at the end of the year because it got canceled because of COVID. And so coming into this year, I feel like a lot of people slept on us, and that's that was a hot take at the beginning of this season. And I don't think it really is anymore. But I still think that people have not yet seen or realized maybe how good our defense can actually be. So I'm thinking that maybe might be a good prove it sort of situation for them. That's my hot take. What do you think, Mike?
My hot take is that we, as CSU fans, are going to, drink out all the either Mick Golden Light or Busch Light at Joe's place on Friday.
Hell
Similar
yeah.
to what we did at the Nook in Minneapolis or at Houndstooth in Tuscaloosa. So I think that's my biggest hot take. I think you're going to see a big game from Trey McBride at a big level. I think we're going to see another. He honestly is our only receiver. You're going to see another 10-yard or 10 catch game out of him, another 100 yards, and I think he does go for a touchdown. I think he's going to prove it on a big stage that he is the best tight end in college football today.
I think if you're looking at Trey McBride as far as
I like it.
as a NFL prospect, scouts are going to look back at how he played on this game. And I think he probably knows that. I think his coaches are telling him that. And so I'd be surprised if he doesn't see the ball at least 10 times come Saturday. So I'd be interested to see how he stacks up too.
And I wonder how Iowa's going to defend him too, right? I feel like we've done a really good job, slowing down big name receivers and tight ends so far this season. Would love to see how Phil Parker dials up the defense against a guy who could be super effective like Trey McBride.
And a red zone target too, if they get down there. Like he's somebody I'd be scared about.
Def.
Well, that kind of leads us into predictions, guys. I'll go ahead and start off. So you saw the over-under at 45 according to DraftKings. The spread is going to be 23 for Iowa minus 23. So, I mean, for me, I think that it's hard to pick this as Iowa covering the spread and the under hitting. But that's where I'm going. I think it's going to be 24-0. That's my prediction. And I'll toss it over to Bo. What do you think?
Yeah, appreciate it. And Mike, I think you're going to like this. I do think that Colorado State does score a touchdown, and I really do, for his sake, hope it is Trey McBride. But I got Iowa winning 39-10. I'm taking the over and the spread.
Ooh.
I think, like I said earlier, we don't see Torrey Taylor. The Hawks are going to keep on rolling on offense. So for that to happen, we're going to need to score some points, run some clock down. You guys know Kirk. Unless he's playing Ohio State, he's not going over 40.
So 39.
So 39.
It looks like maybe Dill might be frozen. So we'll toss over to Mike. What do you think this?
Can you hear me yet?
Oh, I can hear you, Dill.
Okay. Can you see me again yet or no?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we got you.
Looking good. Looking good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You like the mullet, Mike?
It's very nice.
Oh,
very
nice.
nice.
Thank you. Thank you. But all righty. So I got my prediction. Iowa winning. They're going to cover and they're going to hit the over. It's going to be 45-7.
You made it through, Dill.
What do you got, Mike?
Dylan's Alta Vista is not coming through for him right there. Like, or
Did I?
Netscape,
Oh my
or
gosh.
whatever you're on.
You're good, man. We heard you 45-7.
Right?
45-7. I think it's an under game. And I think CSU covers. I think it's going to be a 31-10 game. Again, I think Adazio and Ferentz know each other. Both of them been coaching so long. Kind of think that Iowa pulls off the Dogs and keeps CSU in it. And that's why I'm going to go with 31-10 Hawks. So it won't be Habam. It won't be Hawks by a million there.
I can honestly see that happening.
Okay.
I mean, I could see Colorado's. I mean, how do you not pick Colorado State to cover the spread on plus 23? I feel like
I agree. I concur.
It's gonna be hard. I mean, but they set the lines for a reason, guys. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
I get that, but they covered it versus Kent State though too.
That's true.
Well, one thing that you don't.
Can you guys hear me still?
Yeah, we got you. We hear you, Dale.
CSU is 1-0 in day games this year, so that's going to play a huge part in this game on Saturday. They're undefeated on the road as well, so undefeated in the Midwest. you know, it's gonna help. It's gonna help the Rams a lot.
Mike, I think you're scraping at the bottom of the barrel here, buddy.
I'm going with anything I can grasp. Anything I can grasp.
Love it.
Perfect. Well, guys, unless we got any other thoughts, we kind of like wrapped everything up. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Mike. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Being on.
Actually, Rob, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
We do have a mailbag.
Oh! How could I forget our mailbag?
Don't forget the mailbag now. So, all righty. That's right. So, all right, we got a question for Mike himself, and this is from Texan Iowa fan Tom.
All right,
wants to
Tom,
know,
let me hear it.
Mike, how were the South Dakota State fans? Hawks open up with them next year, and do they travel well?
You know, they were awesome. After the game, we had about 10 of their fans. They were just
Did it
walking
come
by.
through, or
We
did I
invited
freeze
them
again?
over.
Jesus. Okay.
You're good, Dill. We can hear you. Sorry. It's just your video's freezing, but we can hear
Okay.
your audio.
Yeah, so
And I'm delayed, so sorry for interrupting, Mike.
no worries, Dylan. But yeah, you know, we invited about 10 of them over to our tailgate after the game. You know, had a good time with them, talked to them a lot. Yeah, they bought probably 1,500 fans that first game. So, you know, you should see that they're great people. Invite them over, you know, be welcoming. Hopefully you beat them unlike we did this year, you know, so, but no, they're awesome. They're great. They're great fans. A lot like the NDSU fans, but without the bit of arrogance that NDSU fans bring. You know, they came to CSU in 2012. Yes, in 2012, beat us, and they like to tell everybody, you know, when they win those games, which they should. Don't lose, then they can't talk, right?
See, I feel like North Dakota State is like the Bobby Flay of college football, where do you remember that show where it was like beat Bobby Flay, and Bobby Flay would go into like some random southern town and be like, who makes the best fried chicken? And it'd be like, actually, it's Mama G. And it's like, nah, I'm going to try to beat her chicken.
Yep.
Like, I feel like
that is a great analogy. That is a perfect analogy.
It's like, how arrogant do you got to be, like, to try to beat this old lady at something she's been doing for like 40 years?
And then to brag about it when he's done too.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you know, I knew my chicken was going to be the best. You know, shut up.
What else we got for the mailbag, Dylan?
Oh, let's see. Can you guys hear and see me again, or am I
You're
still-
back.
Yeah.
All right, good. Let's see. I just had it on here. I think I deleted it off the Twitter already.
Well, I got a question for you, Mike, and it's actually comes from one of our listeners, Kirby. It's less of a question, more of a comment, but he says he loves your Twitter handle, chorizo gravy, because he's like, I like my biscuits and gravy, but I hadn't had chorizo gravy until it was a few weeks ago when he was in Denver. So I've never heard of that. Is that good?
So it is. I rarely make it, but my nickname's Cam's Chorizo. But yes, here in Colorado there is chorizo gravy, and it is good. I mean, it's not too different than like regular sausage gravy. So if you like biscuits and gravy, I mean, just adds a little bit of spice to it.
Oh,
but
that sounds awesome, actually.
Ooh, see, I was
for
going
a
to say,
tailgate.
that sounds great, because my biscuits and gravy I have now, you know, I add half a bottle of Cholula to it, so I think I'd love it.
Yeah, I mean,
Hell
you got to get like the bulk chorizo. You can't get the tube because that's too greasy. But if you get the bulk chorizo, it's pretty good. And my nickname. So, our mascot is Cam the Ram. Used to be known as the biggest sack in the whack because his balls, and I wish that we were bringing him this weekend. But if you saw his balls, they literally drag on the ground, and so. I was like, I'm half Mexican. My mom's side of the family's, from Mexico. And so I'm like, I gotta have something. So I'm like, instead of cans sausage, I'm gonna be canned chorizo. So that's where I got the nickname, and that's where, I mean, most of the people from Ram Nation, I don't even know if they know my first name. They only call me Chorizo.
That's awesome. And Dylan,
awesome. So yeah, like we said, man, if you're out, am I froze again? God,
you're good. You're good, buddy. Just keep talking.
Oh, okay. See, I thought I was frozen again, but yeah, like we said, Mike, if you're out and about Saturday, make sure to come swing by Myrtle, right across from the Mormon church. We're there, and we'll be drinking and having a good
Place
time.
to
So you're welcome to
tailgate.
swing on out.
It actually is, dude. A lot of beers drank there.
Hell
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome, because it is not drank in Provo, Utah. If you ever have a chance to go there for a game, don't do it. Don't do it. That was absolutely the worst trip I've ever been on, was going to a game in Provo, Utah.
Provo, Utah. Well, if the Hawks ever have a game out in Provo, Utah, we will make sure to let everybody know not to go.
Yeah.
But we're go ahead and gonna wrap this all up as far as this episode goes. But like I said, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been great to have you. It's been great to get your insight as a Fort Collins guy, somebody in Colorado, somebody who runs Rams Nation Radio, just to talk about, all the things that have to do with the Colorado State Rams and everybody that we can look forward to seeing on the field. But obviously we're going to have to close out this episode of the podcast with what we hope to hear this Saturday, which is the Iowa victory polka. And last week we actually heard that this isn't it is an Iowa thing, but this is something that they play in like Wyoming and apparently at other college stadiums and things as well. But
yeah, I was gonna say they play it quite a bit in Lincoln, Nebraska as well.
So,
Yes.
so we can't really claim
ready
it.
to hear it. Hopefully this is the only time I hear it.
Yeah. We will see. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. Here we go.